Let's see. I believe that I'm streaming. I'm going to assume that I'm streaming. I'm going to continue as if the stream is going. Okay, cool. Hey, y'all. It's me, Xiomara Lucero, and all that. I get shy. I get shy, and that's why I was like so stiff in my first stream. But now, a month later, many instances of misogyny and trans ideology later, I'm thinking, why am I putting so much effort into these streams when the dudes, both on the left and right, if we can call that streamer left, anyways, aren't putting any effort in really at all? So this is me continuing just a gender critical Radfem rant, and this is probably the format that I'm going to be continuing in. My plan is basically to... Okay, my microphone is going. My plan is basically to just be streaming every day, at least for 10 minutes, so that I can get comfortable in the habit of speaking my truth. It's really unfortunate that men will speak out of ignorance with confidence, and women who are educated in an area, or at least experienced in an area, will put so much pressure on themselves and not do things because they don't feel qualified enough. And it's like, hello, the call is coming from inside the house. Great. So in my last stream, I was talking about how I testified for HB778, which was a detransitioner bill in Texas. And I was sharing some videos of the live stream of other detransitioners' testimonies. I guess the way I said that made it seem like I'm a detransitioner. I was just testifying with the detransitioners. I was there testifying on behalf of Democrats for an Informed Approach to Gender. So I have like this little script that I'll be referring to ever so often. So if you wonder, like, why can't she look at the camera? Let's see. I'm going to go to the middle. I'm going to jump to this point. I talked about Claire Abernathy and her story. That's where I left off after sharing Yarden Silveda's story, which unfortunately ends with his suicide due to the rapid onset gender dysphoria that he experienced as an autistic boy that culminated in botched vaginoplasties, giving him a terrible quality of life that caused him to end his life. You can go back to my previous stream if you want to reference that. Maybe I'll just have a little video where I talk specifically about his unfortunate story, given that he's no longer here to tell it, but it lives on in Yelp reviews he left for gender clinics that failed him, GoFundMe's for revision vaginoplasties, and his detransitioner Reddit account, which is just really depressing. So rest in peace to him, and I'll be continuing speaking about the detransitioners who testified for HB778 alongside me. So back to Claire Abernathy. She, at 14, was given wrong sex hormones by her doctors and had her breasts removed. She has stated that she wasn't able to give informed consent due to her age, but also because she wasn't actually adequately informed about the likelihood of the side effects, such as losing her nipples. Yeah. Anyways, let's start queuing up videos. So a big point that needs to be talked about for gender transition care, especially when it comes to children, is that these are largely experimental procedures, and this ties back into HB778 and why it was necessary. There are protocols, ever-evolving protocols, all of them experimental, from WPATH and other organizations about how to transition children and adults. However, there is no detransition protocol. Detransitioners are abandoned with their many side effects due to their medicalization, as well as people who continue to identify as transgender. They are also left behind when it comes to their many side effects due to these experimental procedures. So I'm going to queue up a video. Oh, it just started playing. I'm going to queue up a video about Claire's experience and how she talks about not being able to get care due to the procedures largely being experimental and doctors basically not wanting to touch her, causing her more suffering. Let's see. Bear with me. I'm just a girl figuring out OBS Studio. Application, nope. Window capture, that's nice. I have so many windows open. QuickTime player, very lovely. And let's do the transition. In her own words.
Yeah, well, you said, and to answer his question, that it was kind of hard for you to find certain doctors to do. Why do you think that's the case?
Because the care that I received was experimental, and there was no long-term research regarding the complications that might arise for me. So they don't feel informed on how to care for me.
So maybe that confusion's making them decide, hey, I don't want to do this.
Yes, they're concerned that they would harm me further, I suppose.
All right, thank you.
Okay, perfect. I made that face because I was wondering if I had messed up the audio for screen sharing and my microphone. So, first of all, Claire is just incredibly brave to share her story. I have queued up a couple of videos of her testimony, and I'm trying to find the accurate one that I'm about to refer to. Yeah, detransitioners, like radical feminists, like gender critical feminists, people protesting for children and women's safety. There's a lot of hatred and vitriol and victim blaming when it comes to like the aforementioned demographic. Gotta go back to my script so I don't talk in circles. Yeah, there's really no universe where this is ethical care. Let's cue up her testimony. I'm a little all over the place, but hey, that's what you get when you're streaming on your own and you don't have like a full-time staff to support you. I'll get there. So let's cue up her testimony and also the victim blaming. So first we'll look at her testimony so you can actually hear about her story. I just wanted to preface with how the transition care for everybody, regardless of what their specific testimony focused on, we can agree that it's experimental, and that's why HB778 was important, because it was obligating insurance companies in Texas to provide detransition care if they're going to provide transition care. Seems straightforward. ACLU was protesting. The detransitioner friends that I made were bullied in the bathroom. Isn't that ironic? The detransitioners being harassed in the bathroom. Let's cue up Claire's testimony. I clipped a lot of testimony clips from her testimony because it's just really powerful. Let's get this Mac OS screen capture going. Boom, properties. Boom. Okay, there it is. QuickTime player. Transition again. Lovely. Okay, you go, Claire.
In 2018, a week after I turned 14 years old, I was prescribed testosterone by Dallas Children's Hospital, and 6 months later underwent a double mastectomy at the American Institute for Plastic Surgery in Plano. I was an 8th grader in Denton County Public Schools. Too young to drive, too young to vote, or fully understand the consequences of these interventions. I was assured by medical professionals that transition would fix the struggles rooted in my childhood trauma, disordered eating, and ADHD. They were wrong. By 18, I desperately wanted to undo what had been done to my body, and I was lucky. Maryland's state insurance covered my breast reconstruction, but in Texas, many detransitioners would have no such support. Even with my insurance, I was denied coverage for voice training and laser hair removal, services routinely covered for transitioning males, but not for women like me who want to reclaim our identity. The message was clear: transition was encouraged and detransition was not. This bill is not about denying or deterring coverage to adults who choose to transition. It is about fairness. If insurers cover transition, they must also cover detransition. Anything less is medical abandonment and discrimination. The system that enabled this harm must be responsible for being a part of the solution. I urge you to support HB778 to ensure that detransitioners are not left behind. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Really powerful, amazing testimony, really similar to the stories that other transitioners told. The facial expressions of mine are related to the crackling that I hear, and it is breaking my heart because I went out of my way to ensure that I set everything up correctly to not crackle, you guys. So many things are at 44 kilohertz, and so many other things are at 48 kilohertz. I don't know why. So just, as Dua Lipa says, don't turn back, don't give up, or whatever the hell. We're going to keep going with the crackling. Yeah, I'd like to actually queue up another clip of hers to speak to what I mentioned earlier about like radical feminists and detransitioners not being able to talk. I've struggled with actually like speaking on my personal experience when it comes to like political activism in this space, and also just my experience with the trans rights movement and how it's affected me. But let's hear it from the mouth of babes. I don't know if I used that right, but basically from somebody where it's actually relevant to them, more relevant, because it's relevant to me, but I can't talk about it because, I mean, J.K. Rowling comes at it from a really informed perspective, and like organizations like Women's Liberation Fund and Women's Declaration International come at it from a very like informed, when it comes to lawyers and prison rights activists for women. Other organizations, like when they come at it like very factually and informed, they're torn to shreds. So as someone who isn't like a human rights lawyer, I know that y'all don't want to hear what I have to say. So let's hear what a former trans joy person says. I mentioned that because there was a really cute photo after HB778 where all the detransitioners took a photo and it just said detrans joy. So anyways, I'll get better at streaming.
I guess I'm having a hard time understanding, were parents involved? Because I just...
Okay, yeah. I'm a little all over the place, but just to preface this, the logic that Democrats and liberals and like trans rights activists will use when it comes to like shaming, blaming, and just degrading detransitioners, whether they're minors or not, is exactly the same logic they push back against when it comes to sexual assaults claims and rapes. Like, would you tell a Jeffrey Epstein victim, "Where were your parents? I just struggle to believe that you experienced this. I think your parents are to blame, not the institutions." And it's like, well, Jeffrey Epstein was reported and they refused to investigate. So the parents tried. Same with these detransitioners. The parents were like, hey, I don't want to mutilate my child. And in states like Colorado, that means that you lose custody. Or in other states, I know we love to hate him, but Elon Musk has even spoken. He fell for it. He was told, if you don't let us medicalize your child will kill themselves. And so a lot of the detransitioners spoke about, my parents were told that they had to go along with it or else I'd commit suicide. And that also leads to children being forced to transition, because when your parents were told, hey, if you don't do this, your child will kill themselves, the child then, being a minor, right? The child then will be forced to continue the transition even when they come to reality, because the parents were indoctrinated as well. You don't want to let your parents down. So yeah, if Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, arguably the most powerful, if one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful man in the world, if he can fall victim to the pay for this medicalization or else your child will kill themselves shtick, how are we going to protect our children as little people? Regardless of left or right, this is an apolitical issue, the mutilation of children, and then the subsequent victim blaming of detransitioners whenever they talk about, I went through this and I wish I didn't. I would love to see this representative use the same logic for a rape victim as she is for this detransitioner, who again was 14 when all of these things were done to her. Also, Jamie Reed, shout out to Jamie Reed. I'm obsessed with her. I was blessed to meet her when we testified for HB778. She's the leader of the LGBT Courage Coalition, and I bring her up in this tangent because she's a whistleblower. She worked in these gender clinics, and she used to be pro, medicalization of children. But she spoke about how she was trained to tell parents, if you don't go along with this, if you don't pay for this procedure, your child will commit suicide. So, yeah, it's just very interesting to see like the woke liberals use the forbidden victim blaming logic towards detransitioners who are largely minors, but then protests whenever someone uses it towards rape and assault victims. And I don't think victim blaming is right in the context of like rape and sexual assault. But I just think it's funny how it's okay when it comes to people whose political beliefs you disagree with.
I guess I'm having a hard time understanding, were parents involved? Because I just can't imagine a doctor taking a 14-year-old's consent. Didn't your parents have to consent? What were their thoughts about not just giving consent initially, but then having the adverse effects? What was their role in it?
I'm going to answer your question in two parts. My parents consented to allowing me to be medicalized because the therapists that I was seeing at the time told them that this was, one, a very low-risk decision, that regret is almost non-existent, which we simply do not have the data to say, and that this was a well-established evidence-based treatment for a condition I was diagnosed with, gender dysphoria, and that if I was not given this medicalization, I would be at a significantly higher risk of suicide, and it would be her fault. In part two, sorry, can you repeat your question?
Well, so she gave her permission for the transition. Then when you had the complications...
Yes.
I mean, can we not admit that's coercion? Do this or I'll kill myself. Do this or your child will kill themselves. That's not consent. Like, if you tell me that I have to let you do something to me or else you'll kill yourself, that I didn't actually consent. I'm being coerced. So similarly, if you tell me, if you don't do this, if you don't give consent for this, then this person you care about will kill themselves, that is not consent. It's the same logic that biological males use to invade women's spaces. Oh, if you don't let me into the female prison, even though I'm convicted of rape, even though I've been convicted of murder, even though I have a penis, I'll commit suicide. Like, that's not valid logic. Men use that logic all the time. If you break up with me, I'll kill myself. If you don't do this or I'll kill myself, it's the age-old threat that men make against women. And so now we're using that threat towards parents to coerce them. It's not informed consent, it's coercion. To coerce them into consenting to the medicalization of their child, which is literally just experimental mutilation and in many cases sterilization. So.
Did she not help you at that point? Because you were still a minor.
True. I was still 14 years old. I was a very private child, and I didn't tell my mother I was detransitioning until I was getting my pre-op appointment for breast reconstruction. The communication between me and my parents has never been very great, but she When I called my surgeon's office and left a voicemail and told them about what was happening with my grafts, I never heard back. So I presumed that if it was an emergency, if it was something dangerous that was happening, they would have contacted me. So I never informed her, no. So she couldn't help me because she didn't know.
Why are we expecting minors to be in charge of their own medical care? It's so weird. There's like a trifecta. It's like the minor is educated and mature enough to make life-altering permanent decisions that cannot be undone. But also, where were your parents? You were but a minor. But also, why didn't you speak up? It's like, wait, is the child incompetent to make serious decisions and has to be cared for by their guardian? Or is the child competent enough to make serious decisions and can consent to permanent mutilation? Mutilation and medicalization. I mixed the two words together. Just food for thought.
Okay, all right.
I just want to tell you, we appreciate your testimony, and we understand, okay? Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Yeah, something else I noted as somebody who was there, I believe it was all day. I kind of forget. Well, I was there for all of the HB778 testimony. I wasn't there for all of the bills that were heard on that day, which is incredibly common. The Republicans who were like for HB778 always thank the detransitioners for sharing like such personal and like harmful testimony, like triggering testimony. But the Democrats, who are supposed to be like the party of love and peace and tolerance, they would ask these really insulting and invasive questions and then just, okay, yeah. It's just really weird because I thought Republicans were supposed to be like evil and mean. And the Democrats are supposed to be kind. But it's like, I don't know, just something that I noticed personally. And that's why in all of the clips that I include, I also include the end where someone says thank you or fails to say thank you. So that was Claire's testimony about, I shared about how it's not informed consent. Her testimony in general about, what was done to her. Her testimony about how it was experimental care. And I believe I shared about...
15 years old. I was a very private...
Yeah, I shared about the victim blaming that all detransitioners face, which would explain why there's such low rates of regret. It's like, well, if when expressing regret for a procedure, you begin to get death threats, I would think the rates of regret for that procedure would be incredibly low. I don't know. If the consequence of me doing something is receiving death threats, I'm going to be strongly motivated to not do that thing. And yeah, the detransitioners that I spoke with personally, like Chloe Cole, Claire Abernathy, Prisha Mosley, spoke to me and showed me some of the death threats that they've received, which is absolutely bonkers. And it's always coming from the left. Now, I don't support death threats from the right. I just want that to be clear. I'm anti-death threats. I'm anti-victim blaming. But it's really weird when the left will shame the right for doing one thing and then turn around and do it to people they disagree with. I don't know. I stand on principle. I don't know what you could do to provoke me to send a death threat. Insane. So to my next point, we're transing girls who've been sexually abused. Specifically, Chloe Cole. I'm going to start with her. She's a bit of like an influencer activist in the detransitioner world. And I think she's really cool. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that she says, but it's incredibly brave to stand on business and say it. And I will never agree with, again, death threats towards women because where are the death threats for men? Not saying men deserve death threats, but it's weird. Liberal feminists are down with sending detransitioners death threats, but they don't do the same when it comes to like, I don't know, the rapists they claim to hate so much. I'm just talking my little mess because I like to go on tangents, and I'm like this in real life as well. But yeah, there's just a lot of hypocrisy, which is kind of why I've branded myself like wrong kind of Latina, because, you know, as a white man, I can really say whatever I want. I'm not expected to be beholden to any political ideology. But as a black person, if you're not Democrat, you're an Uncle Tom. As a woman, if you're a Republican, then you're a gender traitor. As a Latina, if you don't support the most leftist, like, illogical, full of contradictions type of belief systems, then you're wrong. And it's like, well, my race and my gender do not limit the ideologies I'm allowed to support. To me, putting limits on the ideas and beliefs and behaviors that someone is allowed to partake in based on their race and their gender, to me, that's oppression. Telling black people that they can't have certain thoughts or beliefs, even though it's the left doing it, I'm going to say that's racist, yeah. Telling women that they can't have certain belief systems or else, that's not feminism to me. So, yeah. I'm going to throw in my little sarcastic comments about the left because I was a big, huge leftist. Like, I was so woke. Like, to the point when I was in college, I was giving diversity talks for this organization called, like, Students Empowering and Educating for Diversity. I was such, like, an I hate white person type of liberal that I had one of the organizers of a pre-orientation group that I was in. He pulled me aside and he was like, you have to stop. You have to calm down or else you're going to get racial battle fatigue. Like, you're going to get hypertension. You're going to have health issues. Like, you have to, like, stop. You have to stop hating white people so much. You have to stop identifying with your oppression so much. Like, you just have to. And it wasn't until all of the gender woo-woo that I saw the contradictions in the left and their belief systems. And don't get me wrong, like, I still support, welfare for single mothers. Like, I still support abortion, which a lot of Republicans do. However, I'm not going to do the rules for thee and not for me type of thing. And I'm not going to, again, tell people that based on their immutable traits, because biological sex, gender, that's immutable. And also considering their race, I'm not going to say that based on immutable traits, you have to have a certain ideal, like political belief system or ideology, because to me, that's oppression. Saying that only white men can be ideologically free, I'm sorry. I know the left will disagree, but I don't agree with limiting people. Anyways, back to Chloe Cole and her testimony. I'm going to pull up a clip. Let's see. Let's cue it up. My apologies. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl working OBS studio as it drains my battery and it says battery coming from power adapter, but the battery's draining, so bear with me. Okay, look at us.
Thank you so much for coming, Chloe. It was asserted by another witness that what you experienced, everything you went through was called medical care. Do you feel like that cutting off your breasts, all of the things that were done to you, do you feel like that should be classified rightfully as medical care?
I don't believe it's care at all. I think it's fraud and malpractice. The very premise of these treatments is fraudulent, because no matter what you do to a person, no matter what drugs you give them, no matter what parts of their body you change surgically or cut off, they will never actually become the opposite sex. And the problem was not my body in the first place.
I'm sorry, I just love this song. I love this song. She said, y'all flogging. Ah! I'm sorry. She's so powerful. Again, I disagree with a lot of, well, not a lot. I'm not going to do her like that. I disagree with some of her beliefs. When I wished her happy birthday last week, I told her that. I was like, we don't agree 100%, but I admire your bravery in speaking about what you believe in. Because I'm not going to try to limit a woman's voice, even if I disagree with what she has to say. And that's what the left gets wrong a lot. They're not pro free speech. They're pro compelled speech. And it's like, again, if you're going to police a woman's belief system or what she says just because she's a woman and not do the same to men, it's giving misogyny. It's not giving feminism. And the same argument can be made, I said it earlier, for racial dynamics, right? If I have to be a liberal because I'm Hispanic, because I'm Latina, because I'm Mexican, but a white man is allowed to be Republican, it's giving racist oppression. Anyways, I just had to say, I love this song. And yeah, we're going to get to the relevant part of the clip, which is why I queued it up.
Sex. And the problem was not my body in the first place. I was diagnosed with a learning disability when I was a child. I had sexual trauma, I was molested at school, and I had undiagnosed body dysmorphia. My body was not the issue. It was just the feelings around it. And if I was given time and space to mature through that, I would have grown up perfectly fine.
Well, thank you very much for coming today.
Yeah, that was incredibly powerful. I don't know if I could have the bravery to share something so personal and so triggering in such a public platform. That was Chloe Cole, everybody. So yeah, back to the original point. We're transing girls who've been sexually abused. I'm going to speak now on Prisha. Prisha, she testified, and I'm going to play her testimony later in the stream. But actually, for this specific point about how we're transing girls who are sexually abused, I'm going to read a testimony that she gave in Kansas. So this is Prisha's testimony in her words that she gave in 2023 in Kansas for a bill, SB 233. Dear Chairwoman, Vice Chair, Ranking Minority Member, and members of the committee. My name is Prisha. I was 15 years old when I learned about gender ideology from the trans community. At 17, I was being medicalized with a high dose of testosterone. 1 year later, my healthy breasts were cut off. I had pre-existing diagnoses of anorexia nervosa, anxiety, panic disorder, major depression, and borderline personality disorder. I also experienced a sexual assault at 14. This started me on the path to multiple suicide attempts and years of self-mutilation, with which my doctors assisted me. I realize now that that is what my transition care was. Self-mutilation, no different than the cutting. Doctors removed my healthy breasts, deeming me healthy enough to consent to that, but not to liposuction. Taking cross-sex hormones and removing my breasts did not relieve me of my suicidal ideation. In fact, it made things worse. I needed trauma therapy, but when I uttered the word gender, I was fast-tracked to transition. Now, I have 2 huge scars across my numb chest, where I only occasionally feel zapping pain. My neck and shoulders broaden beyond my frame, and they constantly burn from the overgrowth. I've suffered hair loss on my head, hair growth on my body, which I have to treat with laser hair removal. Insurance isn't helping. My doctors have abandoned me. I am left alone with a ruined endocrine system, sexual dysfunction, and chronic pain. I want to save children from experiencing this pain as they chase a temporary euphoria promised by doctors selling snake oil. If you medically transition, you will be on the medical leash for life. I fully support a bill that protects youth from so-called gender-affirming care. Really powerful testimony, really vulnerable testimony, and that is what gets her death threats. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I actually... Yeah, I transitioned the screen. I didn't know if I still had the QuickTime Pro up. So Chloe Cole, Prisha, and now Claire. I'm going to read from a Women's Declaration International article that interviewed Claire to speak again to how we are transing girls who are sexually abused. This is just a fact that's been proven a long time ago. When girls are sexually abused, their pain manifests as self-harm, body dysmorphia, and eating disorders, and hypersexuality. It's no different than what we're doing to these girls by transing them into men. The belief that if I gain weight, I'll be safe from sexual abuse. The belief that if I become anorexic, I can finally have control over my body, control that was taken away by my sexual abuse. The belief that if I cut myself, if I harm myself, I'll finally have control over my body, which was taken away by the sexual abuse. These beliefs have been proven in psychological literature before the gender woo-woo that we've been living through recently. So, in this Women's Declaration International interview, it's a video interview, the summary states, Claire began identifying as a boy at 11 years old after experiencing a traumatic sexual assault. By her 15th birthday, she was nearly a year on cross-sex hormones and had undergone a double mastectomy to remove her healthy developing breasts. After detransitioning, Claire initially advocated against bans on child medicalization, believing she was protecting others. And I know that the left believes, and this is my words, that they're protecting people. I don't really believe all of the leftists and the gender woo-woo advocates. I really don't believe that they're evil. I don't think that they're aware of how men are invading women's spaces and raping them in prisons, in bathrooms. And because, yes, it is happening. I don't know if you guys are allergic to news and facts, but it might be cute to hashtag not a drag queen. But drag queens, gender activists, and self-identified trans women are in fact committing these assaults in women's spaces. I don't really believe that the leftists are thinking, yeah, I'm going to give men the right to invade women's spaces. Woohoo. Yeah, I want to mutilate children and ruin their lives. Woohoo. I really do believe that y'all think that you're helping children. Just like Claire, she initially was against bans on child medicalization, but now that her brain is more developed and she's no longer afraid of the death threats, she's speaking out. So back to the summary. However, as Claire learned more about the long-term consequences and risks, she became a passionate advocate for safeguarding children from irreversible decisions. So we know that when girls are sexually abused, they act out in harmful ways to reclaim the power that was taken away. Now we have a new method of self-harm for these girls who are just trying to reclaim power over their bodies. Medicalization. Because if I was raped or molested as a girl, it won't happen again if I become a boy. That's what they're telling themselves. And that's what we're affirming by supporting the medicalization and mutilation of children who need therapy, who need space to grow and heal through their issues. I spoke about this earlier when I shared the video of Claire speaking about how detransitioners are shamed and they can't speak out. Prisha and Claire have received death threats, and they spoke about that in their testimony. I want to speak specifically about Prisha Mosley. Very powerful testimony, very vulnerable testimony. While Prisha testified for HB778, this woman, because she was always a woman, a lawyer influencer, the pissed off lawyer, she was bullying her in real time. I'm going to show y'all a tweet. And then I'm going to show y'all what she tweeted I guess it wasn't last week because I made this script about a month ago. So I'm not like reading off the script verbatim, but the script does help to like guide the stream because I am a yapper, certified yapper. Some might say autistic. So, yeah, that's what the script is for. But about a month ago, the woman changed her tune. She went from bullying Prisha. Well, I'll show y'all. Roll the tape. Let me see. Method, window capture. window, Google Chrome. Okay, there it is. I'm just a girl. Okay. So you see like the bullying of Prisha. Like Prisha is just trying to smile and like be happy while she's fighting for the rights of children who are going down the path that she went down. She's trying to prevent pain. So yeah, you know, starting mess. Oh, the rainbow, because the LGBT Courage Coalition, they have like an LGB pin that doesn't include like I'll expand the photo. It doesn't include the like the trans colors if we want to zoom in. So that's what she is taking umbrage with, because again, she was always a she. At this point, the pissed off lawyer is a biological woman who identifies as a man. So she's beefing with detransitioners, and you'll see why. The pissed off lawyer says, I know more about that rainbow since I've been using it before you were born. And Prisha, I mean, truthfully, you denounced your lesbianism when you decided to pretend to be a man. Step off. Like, this should be the end of the interaction, right? Leave me alone. Like, she's sharing really vulnerable testimony. She's in a vulnerable place. They were all in a vulnerable place that day, because I prepared with the detransitioners in Representative Leach's office. The rainbow flag includes trans people, Prisha. You fucking step off. You really don't know much about the LGBT community, and it shows. Just because you decided to be a brand new lesbian doesn't erase that I'm far superior to you in my knowledge of the community. You can step off. Very reasonable response by Prisha. Trans is actively harming gay people because they're transing our gays. You think men can be lesbians, which is literally, oh my God, I'm going to go on a tangent. No, afterwards. You think men can be lesbians. You decided to denounce your lesbianism and womanhood. Testosterone is destroying the lesbian community, and you are aiding in that. Every good thing you've done for gays, you erase now. Which is pretty, like, level-headed, you know? Like, she's not cursing. She's not insulting. So here's the tweet that I wanted to highlight. What does it have to do with the fact that the rainbow you're wearing still includes trans people? And no, nothing is erased just because I'm trans now. I've accomplished and helped more LGBT people than you will ever be able to. Hashtag facts. Let's compare resumes, Prisha. I'm down for that. What's your say? Have you ever even had an actual job? You're bullying a 19-year-old, by the way. You're like 40-something years old, and you're bullying a fucking teenager, by the way. Please, you will lose this one. In the words of your MAGA cult leader, Bigley. Prisha is not a MAGA supporter, and neither am I, but that's what they always say. If you support women's rights, like if you step out of line ideologically, you're an Uncle Tom, you're not a feminist, you're a MAGA supporter. It's like, oh wow. I would just end this here. So April 2nd, 2025, you see the pissed off lawyer, a woman who used to be a lesbian and now identifies as a man. Let's see how she's doing 2 months later. I've been thinking about detransitioning for about 6 months before I announced it. So just know, June 21st, 6 months before that, January 21st. So since January, she's been thinking about detransitioning. In April, 2 months before this tweet, she is bullying the shit out of a detransitioner and insulting her. You know, have you ever had a job? You support MAGA. I've been doing this before you were born. And Prisha didn't even want to engage, right? 2 months later, I felt a lot of shame and anger about it. And I was trying to power through it. So what did I say earlier? What did the detransitioners say earlier? Detransitioners are pressured into staying trans because they receive death threats and they receive shame from the trans community and victim blaming. Thinking that I was just having normal doubts, I felt like there was no one to talk about my feelings in the trans community. I can't. I can't keep doing this. The idea that I can flip a switch and undo everything I've done is absurd. Oh, wait. You permanently mutilated your body? You made a life-altering decision that you can't undo? But you were the one fighting to let children make the same mistakes you did. It's going to take time. And I fuck with this because I'm gender critical. Also, the idea that I need to become ultra feminine in order to detrans is ridiculous. I love this song. Being a masculine woman, I love the robot. Being a masculine woman is completely acceptable. There's no one way to be a woman. Being a woman isn't defined by hyperfemininity or conforming to traditional beauty standards. And yeah, there's a lot of trans-identified men who are like harassing this woman because she was always a woman. I saw tweets even saying, you don't have a uterus, you'll never be a woman, I'm more of a woman than you, you have no breasts. It's like, if you have XY chromosomes, if you have a penis, you will never be a woman. A woman who loses her breast to cancer, loses her uterus, her ovaries to cancer, a woman who shaves her head, a woman who doesn't wear makeup, she will always be a woman. Getting a boob job, tucking your penis between your legs, putting on a wig, that doesn't make you a woman. So please stop telling me I need a boob job and to start wearing makeup and wigs in order to be a woman. And look at Prisha being so kind. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing that you have to do to earn or prove your womanhood because you are just a woman. Now go be a healthy one. So yeah. The detransitioners getting bullied by people with huge audiences, by the way. Like, you have 25K followers, and you're bullying a teenager. Oh, my bad. I misspoke. Not Prisha having more clout. My B. I was trying to make a point. It didn't land. And leftists won't do that. Leftists will just, like, gaslight you if their point doesn't land or if they, like, make a misstep. I'm going to say, yeah, okay, I was going to make a point that you're bullying someone with a smaller audience, but no. Looks like Prisha has more of an audience. I just thought because the pissed off lawyer was getting like more likes and retweets that her audience was bigger, but it looks like it's just popular to shit on detransitioners and bully teenagers who you disagree with politically. Who would have thought? So while all of you are bullying detransitioners, actual trans people want to detransition. Oh. Okay. So to another point about, I guess I shouldn't have transitioned the screen. Back to the point where it's like cool to bully detransitioners. Prisha talked about really painful stuff in her testimony, and the representative, there were two Democratic representatives. I showed you one that did the victim blaming towards Claire Abernathy. Rebecca Gonzalez. I'm sorry. I don't stand with her. Don't hate us Latinas for her sins. These progressive women politicians really hate young women who've been harmed by gender medicine. At Jessica for Texas, who has since closed her Twitter, like you can't at her, made a post mocking Prisha Mosley at Detrans Aqua. But then she deleted it. However, the internet is forever. You would think as a middle-aged representative, you would know that. You can't be bullying teenagers on the internet and then deleting it. We see you. Let me open up this image. Oh, I guess there's nothing more. Yeah, the original tweets, I should have had it queued up. The stunning part were the hostile questions from at Jessica for Texas and Vicky Goodwin Texas, because there were a lot of hostile questions and leading questions and victim blaming questions that I witnessed and I also clipped from the live stream. Prisha said they were so harsh and condescending. Some of them I'm surprised to share aloud. LOL. So asking triggering questions to a teenager who is bearing the most harmful thing they went through. Just to remind you, Prisha was the one whose testimony included things like I was sexually assaulted. That's why I transitioned. You know, I feel pain on my breasts for no reason. My shoulders grew out of their frame and I feel pain because of the overgrowth. Like, she's talking about really painful stuff. And granted, that's from her Kansas testimony, not her Texas testimony. But her Texas testimony was plenty vulnerable. Imagine her talking about how harsh and condescending the hostile questions she received from you were, and then adding her LOL. I love progressive people. I love liberals. I love having respect for victims only if they align with your political views. Jessica is an elected official in Texas. Shout out to Jamie Reed, Queen. Please tell me this was a mistake and you did not intend to mock a young detransitioner who had her breast removed, who is now a mother who can't hold her baby to her chest without pain. I just want to say, like, imagine if a Republican did this. Please sit and imagine, okay, some Republican representative cyberbullies and laughs at a trans person, at a child, a trans minor, a teenager who went through harm as a minor. Let's imagine a representative on the Republican side LOLing at a trans testifier speaking about difficult things they went through during their testimony. Where would the news articles be? Would they be on the front page? Because there were no news articles about this. So, yeah, very telling. Selective outrage. Also, Lil Miss Gonzalez, my bad, Representative Gonzalez, she was very shady. And I'm going to show y'all what I mean. Back to Chloe Cole, who I mentioned earlier is like an influencer in this space because, I mean, she has a very powerful story. Like, if I had a powerful story about a very prominent political topic, I would probably share that story because it's important for legislation, right, to be informed of my experience. So it makes perfect sense that Chloe speaks on her experience, because it's relevant to literally society and the law. Roll the tape.
Hi. Are you getting paid to testify in support of this bill?
No.
Okay, because I'm reading an article here that you have testified before that you make up to $200,000 opposing trans care.
I'm not paid to testify.
Okay, all right, thank you. I know you're under oath, but thank you.
Shady. She must have learned that from her constituents. I'm just like, do you be going to ballroom? Do you be doing ballroom? Because that was very shady. How do they say it? She clocked that tea. I'm sorry. I'm having fun. Yesterday in the hearing for SB, it was HB. It's a House bill. But the Senate equivalent did pass. Yesterday in the hearing for HB778 in Austin, Jessica for Texas accused Chloe Cole of being paid to testify and lying under oath. There's a lot of money involved in gender. Oh my God. Let's not even talk about like how you're a permanent pharmaceutical patient and you are going to be shelling out money to the medicalization industry until you die if you trans yourself. There's also like the lobbying and like the Human Rights Campaign and like all of those like gay rights organizations that once gay marriage was legalized, they needed some other cause to fundraise for. Like if you spent so long raising money to attain gay marriage and it's finally attained, you're gonna want a new cause to keep raising money. Like, you're not gonna say, everybody go home, you don't have a job anymore. You're gonna say, wait, we still don't have equal rights. So yeah, there's a lot of money involved in gender, but it's not on the side of Team Reality. Jessica herself received $10K in contributions from Equality Texas in the last election cycle. Equality Texas is a strictly queer advocacy group and testified yesterday. They had a revenue of over $1.6 million last year. and spent 2.0 million. They have a payroll of close to 800,000, which funds the salary of these government affaired employees who are essentially lobbyists. Ekis. So it's very funny. You know how they say like the call is coming from inside the house? Or they'll say like, what is it? Like people's accusations actually speak on what they're doing. Like, you know, when a man says, "Oh, I'm not a pedophile, I'm not a rapist," all the comments will say, "Oh, I think that means he's a pedophile and a rapist, because why would you say that if you're not?" Exactly. It's so cute when you accuse people of testifying and having political beliefs for money when you are the one actually receiving money to shill specific political beliefs. Got him. I kind of, did the script a little out of order. Let's see. Okay, let's go back to the victim blaming. I'm going to pull up another Claire clip. Claire had, like, a lot of questions. They were afraid to ask Chloe Cole questions because she goes all over the U.S. to testify about this stuff. But Claire was with the shits. I love it. So powerful. And a lot of y'all would not have the bravery to do what she did. So let's pull up Claire's hostile questioning by Representative Gonzalez. Yes, Latina mommy.
You mentioned earlier in your testimony that you were not informed of the potential complications when you had your surgery.
Correct.
Did you sue these providers for malpractice? Because I mean, there is a remedy for that. If the standard of
I'm sorry, there's like lag. I'm wondering what's happening. Let's see. Sorry, let's see if I can restart this.
Earlier in your testimony that you were not informed of the potential complications when you had your surgery.
Correct.
Did you sue these providers for malpractice? Because I mean, there is a remedy for that.
I'm sorry, how is that relevant? If multiple people are saying I did not give informed consent, how is the solution? Well, you should just sue. Okay, but if I sue, that doesn't stop it from happening to other people. Gotta love the victim blaming. Again, would you tell a rape victim, well, why didn't you report the rape? If you're a liberal, you'll say no. But then you change it to detransitioner and medical malpractice, and suddenly it's okay. Suddenly victim blaming is okay. And it's like, how does suing invalidate the importance of what I'm doing? I'm testifying to change the law. I'm testifying to protect other people. Isn't that a more powerful statement of medical malpractice was done to me than give me money? It's all about money for these people. Why didn't you sue? Because it's more powerful for me to change the law to prevent it from happening to someone else. Use your brain.
If the standard of care was not what it was supposed to be for anybody, whether you're transitioning or not, or detransitioning rather.
That is correct. But the
Freudian
statute
slip.
of limitations for medical malpractice, which is what violating the standards of care would be considered, is 2 years. And I detransitioned at 17, 3 years after my surgery.
So how old were you when you started getting your complications? Because it's 2 years after you start, when you discover that there's been, maybe it was, you had a complication.
The complications from my surgery happened almost immediately after. My nipple grafts rejected. They turned into black oozing scabs and fell off. And
And you didn't seek a legal remedy right after it started, even if it happened immediately?
well, I didn't know
This is quite hostile, by the way. This is like a 20-year-old girl talking about something that happened to her at 14. Apologies. People will complain about the harsh interrogations that rape victims have to go through, but I'm just like, Look at what y'all put detransitioners through. I'm just saying.
That was a potential complication that I was informed was a possibility, but I was not informed that drainless procedures like the ones performed by my surgeon have a significantly higher risk of that happening. I was told that that is something that happens in around 3 or 4% of cases, and in drains-free procedures, it's closer to 20%.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if I can't trust, well, if you guys, the law, right? If the law can't trust a 14-year-old to get a piercing without parental consent, if the law can't trust a 14-year-old to smoke under any circumstance, if the law can't trust a 14-year-old to get a tattoo, even with parental consent, if the law won't trust a 14-year-old to get a license, even with parental consent, if the 14-year-old in question cannot go buy a gun or serve in the military, even with parental consent, tell me why these children are allowed to consent to permanently life-altering, mutilating procedures. Make it make sense. I would rather my daughter smoke a cigarette or drink alcohol or drive a car or get a tattoo or get a piercing before she removes her healthy breasts and loses her nipples and becomes a lifelong medical patient. I might, maybe I'm a MAGA supporter and I'm brainwashed. I just, to me, this has nothing to do with politics. I don't think protecting children is political. I just personally don't believe that protecting children from harm or forcing doctors to meet the standard of informed consent and adequate care, I just don't think that's political. But I guess it is to these liberals. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, this is like the second half of my first stream that got cut off by my battery like last month. Well, the end of June, really. So I have like some stuff I wanted to read off. Now I'm like, should I read about it? Should I read it? So I initially want to talk about the Skermeti ruling, and the reason I spoke about HB778 was to show that I actually have a vested interest in this. In my first stream, I showed the testimony that I gave for HB778, telling the story of Yarden Silveda, who unfortunately is no longer around to tell his story. Just so that people can't say, oh, she's a grifter. It's cool to hate on trans people, so that's why she's saying this. She just wants to make money. No, like Chloe Cole, I don't get paid to testify. I just care about women's safety and children's safety. I know, shocking. When the popular narrative is that biological men with penises should be allowed in women's prisons, it's pretty shocking and risque to say, women deserve protection. When the popular narrative is that mutilating children and sterilizing them is good, it's pretty risque to say, no, wait, I think we should have informed consent and protect children from their delusions. Anyways, the Supreme Court recently ruled in the Skermeti case that states can ban gender transition procedures for minors. This law applies to all minors, like any age-based medical restriction. It says that no one under 18 can get these treatments. And before you say that's oppression, you're already oppressed, because children can't get tattoos, they can't drink alcohol, they can't get breast implants unless they're trans. They can't get piercings unless they have, parental consent. Yeah, so the oppression was already there. Telling a 14-year-old autistic boy with rapid onset gender dysphoria that he can't get breast implants, it's just as oppressive as telling him, you can't get a tattoo, honey. You can't get a piercing. You can't drink. You can't get a gun. Those are all equally oppressive, all right? The state has the right to step in when irreversible harm is possible. And that's the key legal reasoning behind Skermeti. And thank God it opens the door for other states to do the same. And a lot of people have said, like, why would the gender industry, the gender woo-woo movement, why would they hinge so much on this case? You knew you were going to lose. Like, this is just bad business, because that's all it is, a business. They don't care about protecting children, or else they would stop sending death threats to detransitioners, or else they would have a medical, protocol for detransitioners, or at least for the side effects that are so common when it comes to vaginoplasty and phalloplasty, commonly referred to as bottom surgery. Y'all would actually have care for people who get top surgery and face adverse medical side effects. Like, that's why I call it an industry, because it's all about the money. It's not about compassion. So yeah, they made a bet and they lost. Nationally, we've ruled that states can ban gender transition procedures for minors. And I can't wait until state by state it happens, because I've met enough detransitioners and I've read enough detransition stories online while I was crafting my testimony to know there's more harm than good, because the people who are harmed but say that they appreciate what was done to them, they're saying that because they know they're going to receive death threats and be victim blamed and be bullied publicly if they say, I made a mistake. If you have to silence detransitioners to support trans people and to prove that they're valid, don't you think there's something wrong? If you have to silence a demographic to validate another demographic, don't you think that demographic isn't valid? Like I don't have to silence racists to show that racism is wrong. Like, we can allow racists to speak and still prove that racism is bad using logic. But if detransitioners speaking what happened to them invalidates or disproves the trans narrative, then the trans narrative is faulty. You shouldn't have to silence people to get your point across. Your logic should be sound. If the ruling had come earlier, the detransitioners who testified for HB778 wouldn't be suffering as they are now and as they will forever. And Yarden Silveda would still be alive. I'm like, should I go off the cuff, or should I like keep reading like the little excerpts I had in my script? If you've watched this far, which thanks, oh my gosh, it's like a really long stream of consciousness stream. You saw what I saw. The people that testified in court for HB778, they're not rare stories, and they're not unique stories. The stories are numerous and overlapping. The people in power, like the brainwashed activists who think it's cool to send rape threats to J.K. Rowling's niece, the medical institutions who are making so much money off of the medicalization of children and adults who are vulnerable, the politicians who are making money by supporting the lobbyists who are making money from fundraising, right? They're doing everything they can to protect a narrative instead of their constituents. And vulnerable children are suffering due to this social contagion, because that's what it is, social contagion. Just like bulimia and eating disorders like anorexia nervosa are considered social contagions when it comes to social media, that's what's happening to trans children. They're becoming trans because they're seeing it being praised on social media and on TV and in popular society. You can be a loser with no friends, but once you take, they call it the blue pill, right? The estrogen or the testosterone pill. Suddenly you have a caring community. Suddenly you're valid. Suddenly being mean to you is transphobia. So why not become trans? If you're unhappy with your body because you were sexually abused as a child, if you're seeking control whenever you've lost control due to trauma, what else can you do but mutilate your body, because you're going to be praised by everybody for doing it. You're going to be called brave, and corporations like Coca-Cola and Nike are going to support you. How are you oppressed if multi-billion-dollar corporations are on your side? I'm just saying. How are you the oppressed minority if, like, Bud Light, a billion-dollar corporation, is on your side? I'm just saying. The Supreme Court has a legitimate interest in protecting children from irreversible harm, and they ruled that states banning gender transition care for children are doing exactly that. Is the house of cards that says gender identity trumps everything, even women's rights, even child safeguarding, is it finally collapsing? Are we returning to common sense and reality-based politics? Spoiler alert, yes. And it's not just the U.S. Supreme Court. In my next stream, I'm going to talk about the April Scotland Supreme Court ruling, where they officially ruled in a unanimous manner that discrimination against women refers to biological sex and not gender identity. Because if you can be a woman by spending a 5-pound certificate saying that you're a woman, then you're not oppressed for being a woman. You're not. I didn't have to get a flimsy 5-pound gender certificate to be catcalled down the street when I turned 12. I don't need a 5-pound gender recognition certificate to be stalked or to be physically and sexually harassed by men who feel like they're entitled to my body just because I made eye contact with them. I even was flashed in June. I was flashed and I was so upset that I didn't even get to attend the Pride Parade, right? Like, the man didn't ask for my 5-pound gender recognition certificate before he did gender-based violence against me. He just did it. Being a woman is oppression based on your biological sex. It's not putting on a wig and enticing. Oh. It's a major win for women's rights and a lethal blow to self-ID policies. Self-ID policies that are resulting in biological men with penises and rape convictions being housed in women's prisons. Look up Women's Liberation Fund if you don't believe me. I wish I was wrong. I wish that you guys could say she's crazy, she's schizophrenic, she's weird. Why is she saying this? I spoke to the executive director of Woman to Woman, and I literally have seen the evidence that shows it is harmful towards women to force them to be housed with men who have penises. And many of these men have rape convictions. If you look at the percentage of men, biological men in male prisons convicted of rape, it is less than the percentage of biological men in female prisons, trans women, who are convicted of rape. It's insane. So yeah, if you care about language, law, and reality, subscribe now and don't miss my next stream. I promise it'll be more put together. Again, I'm just a girl, a biological girl. So yeah, my content is about reality. It's about common sense, all of which are in contradiction with like elite ideologies that have completely lost touch with working class people. Because I come from let me list my oppression points so that you care about what I have to say. You know, I'm a neurodivergent, queer, a Latina of color, from a mixed immigration status family, from a low socioeconomic background. I, of course, was brainwashed into being a leftist because I really did believe that these woke policies that prioritize men's feelings over women's safety, I really thought that they were for us. And in future streams, I'll talk about how like police reform, restorative justice, lax migration policies, how those also harm women. Basically, every leftist woke ideology harms women. And I can go on a tangent, but I won't. I'll save it for my next streams. Just expect to hear about those aforementioned topics and also how the trans rights movement is homophobic and the homophobia that I've experienced and seen by trans-identified men saying that lesbians must interact with his penis or else he'll kill himself and it's her fault. It's very, very crazy. I'll also talk about how trans-identified men and trans rights activists are lauded for giving death threats and rape threats towards TERFs like me. I'm just like, look, if you disagree with what I have to say, please use logic to dissect my argument instead of saying you'll kill me and rape me. Thanks. Because a lot of y'all hate J.K. Rowling, but you can't say why. You can't say what she said was so offensive. But what you will do is like retweet a rape threat or death threat towards her. That's when y'all lost me. That's when the left lost me. And that's when I started getting, I don't want to say black pilled, maybe woke pilled. Because again, if you're a man saying that you'll beat a woman to death for her political beliefs, yeah, bro, that's not feminist. So if you're tired of the gaslighting and collective psychosis, subscribe. I'm saying what we're not supposed to say. That this ideology is a cult and it's hurting people. I'm not here to play nice with any of them. The right side of history feels great. Yeah, like in a year or maybe 2 years, whenever everybody wakes up, I'll be able to say, hey, I was on this side before, it was cool. So yeah, see you next time when we talk about the recent Supreme